Time now for everybody's favorite guessing game, What's My Line? Throughout the world, only one company produces all types of business machines and systems, Remington Rand, who now invite you to play What's My Line?
And now let's meet our award-winning What's My Line panel. First, the popular columnist whose voice of Broadway appears in papers from coast to coast, Miss Dorothy Kilgallen.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And now I'd like to introduce a star of the Folie Bergère in Paris, the Café de Paris in London, a Macombo in Hollywood, and our dressing room here at the Mansfield Theater, Mr. Fred Allen.
Thank you very much. In the February issue of the Coronet magazine, there's a piece called The Lady is a Wit. Now, if you read The Lady is a Wit, you'll find that it is a profile of our other glamour panelist, and here she is now, I believe, Miss Arlene Francis.
I'm here, Fred, thank you. And now, backstage, there is a gentleman juggling 2 oranges and a cup of coffee in preparation for his appearance on the George Gobel show next Saturday night. Mr. Bennett Cerf.
I was spoken in your best jugular vein.
Ooh, Bennett.
Well, speaking of juggling, ladies and gentlemen, we have a great word juggler who is our panel moderator, as you know. He guides or misguides us through the show every Sunday night, and here he is in person, Mr. John Charles Daly.
Thank you, Bennett. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to What's My Line. And we're going to do a little juggling tonight. We've juggled a few very interesting occupations, and it's up to the panel to see if they can keep all the balls in the air at the same time. We'll have a famous guest challenger a bit later on, but I think the best thing to do right now is to get the panel started. Let them... No, you don't have to put your masks on.
Oh,
Relax.
what a relief.
And let them meet our first challenger. Will you sign in, please? Right there, please. M.A. Palmaro, is that right, sir? Palmaro, where are you from? I mean, will you live here
In New York.
in New York City?
That's right.
That's right. I didn't want to confuse that. Actually, I come from far away, but I kind of think
No,
of
I live in
myself
New
as a
York.
New Yorker now. You're a New Yorker now for time. Well, that's nice. The panel, I don't think then is entirely strange to you. Perhaps have seen them around the city, but they want to get a close look at you. So would you take a small hike over there for me, please, sir?
Palmaro?
Hello, Mr. Palmero.
How do you do, Mr. Palmaro?
All right, Mr. Palmaro, over here, if you will, and sit down next to me. And I need to ask you if you're familiar with our scoring system. Do you know how we score this?
I've been following this game many Sunday evenings.
You have? Well, we'll flip a card just for that. Get started properly. That's a wonderful idea. But, panel, that's charged against the general fund. That's not charged against you all. It's in terms of points.
I watch it too, John.
Do you really, Fred?
How about another 5 for me?
I'll see you afterwards.
All right.
But if you know how we score this thing there, let's let the people at home and those who are here with us in the theater know exactly what your line is. All right. Panel, I will tell you that Mr. Palmaro is salaried, and let's begin the general questioning with Arlene Francis.
Mr. Palmero, are your services available to both men and women?
Certainly.
Oh, well, I like a man that's as sure as you are. And are your services pleasurable for the people that you serve?
I would think...
Generally pleasurable.
I would be sure that Mr. Palmaro would like to feel that they give satisfaction in every case, and certainly in those
He
cases...
looks like
be
a
pleasure.
gentleman that would give satisfaction. Mr. Palmero, your wife just applauded. Mr. Palmero, Do you have to have some training for the work that you do?
Yes.
Is there any kind of a product involved in your work?
No product.
No product. 1 down and 9 to go, making it 2 down and 8 to go, Mr. Sir.
Mr. Palmero, do you do your work here in New York City?
Yes.
Does the work bring you in contact with people?
Yes.
Does it bring you in contact with any people that might be in the public eye?
Certainly.
What is that? That is not necessarily a part of the
Not
reason they come.
No, I
that
mean,
would be incidental.
It would happen in the routine of things, Bennett, basically.
Do they come to you, Mr. Palmero?
Yes, they do.
Have you got any kind of a title, like doctor, or some special?
You mean as a professional man?
Yes. Are
A
you
doctor.
Are you a professional man?
What does he mean by that?
Don't let's... No, I wouldn't think so either. No, we had a conference, and we agreed, not at all. 2 down and 8 to go, which makes it 3 down and 7 to go. Miss Kilgallen, Mr. Palmero is not a doctor.
John, I'm going to feel like an absolute fool if I'm not right, but I think I'd better disqualify myself because I think I have reason to know who Mr. Palmero is. So I'll pass to Fred.
Well, can I have a conference?
Miss
With that-
Kilgallen
with
feels
Dorothy.
that she has reason to know who you are.
A bell just rang.
A bell
suddenly.
just rang? Didn't hear a thing.
didn't
Mr.
know.
Allen,
Well, could I have a conference
who would you like to have a conference with?
with Dorothy?
Or with. And just before I get my grammar criticized, with whom would you like to have the conference, Mr. Allen? Miss Kilgallen, you can't have one.
Right. Do you work for a profit-making organization?
For what?
A profit-making organization.
No, sir.
That's 4 down and 6
How
to
do
go,
you-
Miss Francis.
How do you survive?
Do you work for any branch of the government?
Yes.
Do you work for the federal government?
I would think this, this area of employment can get a little bit foggy on occasion. I would say that federal government would cover the general picture, wouldn't you? Yes. Mm-hmm.
Do you work in an office?
Yes.
Do you have anything to do with the great arm of the law?
No.
No.
No, not at all. 5 down, 5 to go, Mr. Sir.
Well, Mr. Palmero, do you have anything to do with people or things that are going in or out of this country?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Would you have anything whatever to do with the passport office?
Would you
Or
have
the
anything
passport
whatever to
or
do with the
custom?
passport office? You'd have something to
yes.
do with the passport office, yes.
Are you the man who's in charge of giving passports to people in the United States?
No, I don't. Well, now, wait a minute. Let's have a small conference. There are circumstances under which we would have to agree that Mr. Palmero would have the authority and the right and might issue a passport, yes.
Would it be passports to both United States citizens and people born under foreign flags?
Well, small conference, yes.
Well, for goodness sake.
No, wouldn't think of it. Absolutely not. 6 down and 4 to go. Miss Kilgallen has passed Mr. Allen.
Do you make photographs for passports?
No.
Rotogravure photographs?
No rotogravure, Fred. 7 down and 3 to go, Miss Francis.
Are you involved in some way with the immigration authorities?
No.
No, I wouldn't think so. No. 8 down and 2 to go, Mr. Sir.
I'm back at this passport business. You said you had something to do with that.
Yeah, he has something to do with passports, yeah.
Does your signature appear anywhere on United States passports?
On the United States?
Oh, well, sure.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
right.
sure, yes. Oh, it could. I mean, I would not say that it was absolutely necessary, Bennett, but certainly, here again, it's a broad area, and...
Well, now, did we establish the fact, I'm not sure whether we established the fact that Mr. Palmero was connected with the United States government.
The fact has not been established. Would you like to ask that question?
I would like to ask if you are connected with a government other than that of the United States.
Other than that of the United States? Yeah.
Is it one of the Latin countries?
One of the Latin countries.
Well, that includes
What do
Italy,
you mean by
Spain.
country?
Take it easy. You mean, actually, we want to be helpful here. You mean one of the Latin American countries?
No, sir, I do not.
Well, what do you mean?
I mean, is it either Italy or Spain?
Italy or Spain. That's fine. That's 9 down and 1 to go. Mr. L.
Is it Russia?
Actually, we gave 1 card away, so we'll give you 1 extra question, Miss Francis, if you'd like to ask one.
South America? Or
South
Mexico?
America. Isn't that wonderful? No. No, of course not. Mr. Palmaro is the... Dorothy.
Let Dorothy tell
He
it.
must be in the consulate somewhere.
I thought Mr. Palmero was the consul from Monaco.
Consul General from Monaco. Right. Yes, Dorothy.
And I'm aware of his name because I think I'll be asking him for a visa in the near future.
Uh-huh. So, well, actually, we thought we might get one by you, but we didn't get it by you, but we did get it by the rest of the panel. I would like to know something. I have been severely taken to task on my news programs for saying Monaco, which I thought was an anglicization of Monaco, you know. Which is the correct
No, we
pronunciation?
say Monaco.
Monaco.
Without
And what do you call the residents of your country?
Monegasque.
Monegasque. Well, there we are.
May I ask a question?
Yes,
John?
Bennett.
I wonder if Mr. Palmero is going to get to kiss the bride.
Are you going to get to kiss the bride?
I hope so.
Ah, there's a man after our own heart. Thank you very much, Mr. Palmero. It was wonderful having you with us on What's My Line. And that's one nice thing about being an official. He probably won't have to get in line like the rest of us. Well, panel, a very difficult beginning for you, but I think probably you'll make up now with our second challenger, because this is not tricky. We're never tricky. Would you sign in, please, ma'am? Right there. Thank you. Max Allen McKay. Is that right? I would guess it's Mrs. McKay.
Yes.
And where are you from, Mrs.
I'm
McKay?
from Bardstown.
Bardstown in Kentucky? Oh,
Of Old Kentucky Home.
the home of Old Kentucky Home? Well, we got a lot of blue grass over here that I want you to walk through, if you will. Let the panel get a closer look at you.
Mrs. McKay, honored to meet you, ma'am.
Hello, Mrs. McKay.
I have an uncle who's running a still in your...
All right, Mrs. McKay. Mrs. McKay, you've joined me here. Are you familiar with our scoring system?
Yes,
Fine. Will you
all the time.
sit down and make yourself comfortable, get a little close to the microphone, and we'll let the folks at home and our friends here know exactly what your line is. All right. Panel, trying as always to be helpful, we will tell you that Mrs. McKay is salaried, and we'll begin the general questioning with Dorothy Kilgallen.
Mrs. McKay, is there a product involved in what you do?
Is there a product involved in what you do?
No.
No product. 1 down and 9 to go, Mr. Allen.
If there is no product, you must deal in services, Mrs. McKay.
Yes.
Are your services available for men and for women?
Yes.
For both?
Mm-hmm.
Do these people come to you to avail themselves of your... They do come to you? Do you work for a profit-making organization?
No.
No, that's 2 down and 8 to go, Miss Francis.
I must ask that question the wrong way, John.
With you, Fred.
Then it lasts for a half hour going all around it. You don't work for...
No.
I'm finished.
You've had it.
I'm extinct.
You're
I know.
extinct. That's right, Miss
And
Francis.
I look extinct on the television, too, my friends tell me.
Mrs. McKay, would you dress as you are dressed now for your job?
I really wouldn't.
I mean, by that I mean, would you
Yes.
wear clothes such as you have rather than a coverall of some kind?
No.
No, actually, I think what Mrs. McKay needs, Mrs. McKay would wear street clothes. That's right. So
Well, that's
that
what I
you
meant,
get a
yes.
yes answer to that,
I
Miss
see.
Allen.
Do you work indoors, Mrs. McKay?
Yes.
Do you work with your hands?
Yes.
Well,
Well,
to
a
some
certain extent.
to a certain extent. Actually, I think we would feel that we ought to give you a no on that. It's not
Yeah.
necessary or vital to the functioning
All right.
of service here. Mr. Cerf.
Well, Mrs. McKay, I know that horses are a very important part of Kentucky life. Does your job have anything to do with the world of horses?
No. Oh, darling,
Thought you might have to do with the
Mrs. McKay
derby.
said, I wish it did. Miss Kilgallen.
Bennett, you can hardly work with horses without using your hands.
She might have something to do with Kentucky Downs and Churchill Downs.
Oh, I see what you
A
mean.
female
All right.
jockey or something.
Yeah.
I thought you meant riding, no hands. Do you work in something like a house or an office rather than a building that we would associate with sports?
Can't
Puzzled,
locate the
John.
business, I guess.
This is a hard one, Dorothy. Actually,
Would you like
You
me to
mean-
ask something else? Because I don't know what I'd do if I got a yes.
all right, you ask something else.
Do you speak to the people that you deal with when they come to you?
Oh, yes, you speak.
Yes.
Do you give them any words of wisdom or advice?
Mrs. McKay tries to give them words of wisdom. I think we
Do
all
you
do.
give words to men and women at the same time?
Yes.
Do you influence their lives by what you do?
I try to.
I would say there's some influence there. We would agree that what Mrs. McKay does has some influence or bearing, on the course of life.
Do you deal more with adults than with children?
Yes.
Do you have anything to do with something tremendously important in people's lives?
You mean like a milestone of...
Yes, exactly.
That's fine. That makes it 5 down and 5 to go, Mr. Allen.
Well, you
I'm going to give you
don't-
1 more minute because you're not close, I don't believe.
You don't work for any form of the government. That's established, isn't it?
No, it has been established that
He doesn't
Mrs.
work
McKay
for-
does not work for a profit-making organization, and you may take it from there.
Do you, you don't function as a justice of the peace? You don't marry people or anything like that, do you?
No, that's 6 down and 4 to
That's a
go.
yes.
Oh, you said you don't. That's right.
You don't marry people. You don't divorce people. No, you wouldn't have that authority. I don't know. Certain states you might, in the hills back of the underbrush, things going on. You're not you don't function in the capacity as a teacher of any sort in a trailer
don't.
school or anything
These
like
negative questions are throwing me beautifully. No, yes, Mrs.
Well,
McKay does not.
that. Well, I'll wear you out, John, and I want to save you for the rest of the show. I will pass to Arlene.
All right, Miss Arlene.
Is it possible you do not work for a branch of the government?
Now he's stuck again.
I think...
John, one question is: has Mrs. McKay got anything to do with sports at all? You seem so hesitant
Well, Bennett,
about
I feel a
answering
little
that.
bit unfair because actually I did throw all the cards off and then you got to ask the question.
And she doesn't.
That she doesn't. That's
Yeah.
right. That's fine. Because
I'm
Mrs.
dying to go
McKay
on.
is a jailer.
A jailer.
A jailer. Mrs. McKay has been the jailer of the Bardstown jail since 1950. She succeeded her husband. in that
And she
time.
left the key.
Yeah. Has the key and knows how to use it, and you better behave,
I'll
Brother
stay out
Allen.
of Kentucky.
Miss Kilgallen?
She looks to me as if she'd make them want not to leave. I bet she has no trouble at all.
Well, actually, there were a couple of escapees, but they caught up with them and brought them back to her, and
Well,
they
they-
stayed that second time.
They're not
Well-
breaking in the jail. It's not that attractive, is it? People are
Well,
breaking
Mrs.
in.
McKay, we fooled them, and thank you very much for being our guest. It was nice to have you with us on What's My Line. Good night. In just a moment, we'll meet tonight's mystery guest, but first, Dick Stark.
Well, good evening, friends. Once again, Christmas has come and gone, leaving behind its usual scattered array of toys. And if your house is like most, I imagine you've had a pretty terrible time trying to keep track of all of it, haven't you? How would you like to try to keep track of 60,000 toys all at once? You know, that's about what you'd find in a large department store, and if you were manager of the toy department, you'd have to know where every one of them is, every one of those 60,000. You'd have to know when to reorder, where to reorder, all kinds of little bits of information. That could be a very tough job. we have something right here that would make it an easy job. This is the Remington Rand Robot Cardex, and it specializes in taking complex record-keeping jobs and making them simple. Simple as pushing a button. I'll show you what I mean. Gloria, may I have our subject for demonstration?
Sure thing, Dick.
Thank you. This is the Holly dancing doll. Now, you just watch. First of all, we select the button and press it, and the Cardex selects the proper slide, and here it comes, the complete personal file of the Holly dancing doll, selected from thousands of others in a matter of seconds. Now, you notice these little colored bars along on each card? Well, that's part of the Cardex visible signal system, which makes it possible for you to see at a glance the exact status of each item. And as you can see here, the Holly dancing doll is in short supply. So, doll, we'll have to take care of that, won't we? Friends, I'd like you to notice that the operator does not have to reach up, open drawers, stoop, do any of those things. The record is delivered in perfect position for making entries, delivered in seconds. As a matter of fact, as you watch, you are seeing time saved because our operator is more comfortable and therefore works faster. Now, in business, time saved is money earned. Friends, the Robot Cardex can handle inventories, personal records, credit records, sales records, all kinds of record-keeping problems. And if your business has a record-keeping problem, such as one of those, I wish you'd contact your Remington representative and have him tell you about the Robot Cardex. Thank you very much.
Now we come to the special feature of our program, the appearance of our mystery celebrity, for which my friends in the panel are blindfolded. You all set, panel?
Yes, Mr. Daly.
Good. Will you come in, mystery challenger, and sign in, please? Panel, as you know, in the case of our mystery challenger, we go to a different form of questioning. You ask one question at a time in turn, moving clockwise. We'll begin it all with Bennett Cerf.
Well, there was no whistling and more applause after the name was signed than before. Is it correct that you are not in show business?
I am not.
It's a man.
Miss Kilgallen?
For goodness sake, are you in politics?
It has a relation to politics.
Mr. Allen?
What does that mean?
That it has a relation to politics.
Are you in the Republican Party?
I am.
Miss Francis?
If it has a relation to politics, are you appointed rather than elected?
I am.
Mr. Cerf?
Have you anything to do with the Secretary of State in Foreign Affairs?
I have something to do with foreign affairs.
Miss Kilgallen?
Are you in the cabinet?
I am.
I think I know your voice, and I'm not going to pass, and I may be wrong, but I would say that you are Senator Lodge.
That's right, Fred. You and I come from the same hometown.
Yes, sir?
Oh, it is.
Is it right?
Right.
That's right. Ambassador Henry Cabot.
I'm so seldom right, I didn't dare take it off. I thought that...
I was afraid of Fred,
Well,
Mr.
he's a
Ambassador.
Bostonian. He
Yes,
spotted
I-
my brogue right away.
Yes, I just the second time around I heard the... I recognized the voice.
I was just hoping that Fred would confuse your Boston accent with my inherited Boston accent, but he didn't get confused. So
I'd like to know how the senator got his voice out of his nose. Mine is still up there.
It takes years of training. Because actually, all of the panel know, and I'm sure all of you folks at home know, that Ambassador Lodge is our representative to the United Nations. And if I'm not intruding, sir, upon your work hours and not asking questions you don't want to answer, you probably have to deal with our Russian friends in the UN more than anybody else. Is there any formula for getting along with them, or how do you get along with them?
Well, every time that a communist speaks in the United Nations, I make it a point to speak myself. So that in the news story that goes out over the world, there's always something about the viewpoint of the United States of America.
And this is the formula that works.
That's my formula.
Actually, and not meaning to pin any poses on you in this bright light of publicity, that one of the things that happened when you went to the UN was that the Russians, every time they did get up and spill their propaganda, were met immediately with the United States arguments, and I think it's done a great service for the country. This is all I had to say, really, about it.
Well, that's very nice.
Nice
Thank
of you to come and see us. I must tell you one thing, that we were hoping that you'd get into the entertainment side of it and ask the ambassador if he was on television. He was going to say yes, quite a bit, and he is. He's on the UN television all the time.
Senator, you know, it is tricky. We've been playing this game quite a while, and with our blindfolds on, we listen to the applause. And if there's a lot of applause after you've signed in, more than when you have signed in, that usually means that somebody in the audience doesn't readily recognize. And that's how we went on.
That helps a lot. Miss Kilgallen?
Doesn't help me a bit. I thought from the applause and the quality and the kind of applause that it was a very curvaceous girl like Julie London. She was going to be my guest.
No, Mr. Ambassador. Thank you very much, sir, for being our guest. Fred, I have a quick question I'd like a quick answer to. Have I still got my voice up in my nose, too?
Partly, John.
And
Thank
what about
you
me?
very much, Mr. Allen.
Everybody comes from Boston.
No, I come from New York.
Well, we'll be back
Really?
in just a moment, but first here is a word from Remington Rand.
Throughout the world, only one company produces all types of business machines and systems. Remington Rand. Creators of over 160 accounting and punch card machines, 120 record control and filing systems, 80 adding machines and printing calculators, and a complete line of electronic computing systems. Remington Rand, manufacturers of over 20,000 products to serve the world of business.
Before our panel says goodnight, I would, as is the custom, like to remind you again that we'll be here next Sunday at 10:30 p.m., and we would like to have you with us, inviting you to play What's My Line, of course. For other localities, we'd like you to check your local listings for the time and the date of our weekly series. And now, a word from next week's sponsor.
The Remington shave is the comfortable shave. Here's our famous Peach with its short, close fuzz. And here's the Remington electric shaver, the guard removed so you can see the fuzz fall. See how it shaves that peach without harming its tender skin. The same Remington that can shave the bristles off a brush. Bristles tougher than any beard. So to give yourself a clean, comfortable shave, give yourself the Remington shave.
Well, as you've all heard earlier, Bennett Cerf is going to be away from us a couple of weeks. He's going out to California. We'll be with George Goebel next Saturday, so I would like to ask Bennett, for all of us, to say our greetings to Mr. Goebel, a very fine gentleman. Until next week, then, this is John Daly saying good night, Miss Dorothy.
Good night, John. Good night, Fred.
Good night.
Bye-bye, Bennett.
Good night, Dorothy. Good night, Arlene, and bye-bye, Bennett.
Thank you. Good night, Fred. And bye-bye, baby.
Well, next week, while I'm fooling around California, Mr. Herman Woke, the brilliant author of Marjorie Morningstar, will be sitting in the seat. And don't you flirt with him, Arlene. Good night, John.
Good night, Bennett. Have a good trip, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being with us on What's My Line?
Travel arrangements on What's My Line are made through American Airlines. American Airlines flies our contestants in luxurious comfort aboard DC-7 flagships. This has been a Mark Goodson, Bill Todman production in association with the CBS Television Network.